If you think succulents only thrive in full sun, well, think again. Welcome to my channel, Cacti and Succulents with Senior Sue, and today I'm going to show you a variety of beautiful succulents that I'm growing in my garden, and they actually grow really well in shade to partial shade. And if you have a shady patio, a north-facing yard, or areas that don't get a lot of direct sun, don't worry, you can still grow succulents successfully. And of course, a lot of these succulents that I'm showing you may also be grown indoors. So if they're low light outside, they should do fairly well indoors. Okay, and I will show you some succulents that do well in the shade, some that grow well in partial shade, and also some trailing succulents for hanging baskets. Now this first plant that I'm going to show you is planted underneath the shade of a tree, and it is a gasteria, and it is doing very well in the ground here. Now this is a plant that is native to South Africa, and they naturally grow in a shaded environment, and I have had this plant here for about 3 years, and it has put off some pups down below. Now this one might be called Little Warty, I'm not quite sure, and its botanical name is Gasteria pilancei. And I don't know what happened here, something broke it, but it's pretty healthy. Okay, I'm on my front porch, and these plants receive shade for the majority of the day, and they do very well on my porch. Okay, so this first plant is known as Sansevieria snake plant, also known as a mother-in-law's tongue. And this is a very tough plant, and it can handle very low light. And if you're a beginner, this plant is almost fail-proof, and it's a great plant for the office. And now with all plants that are in the shade, you do not have to water them as frequently as you would your other succulents. And now here we have a ZZ plant. Now these plants I did neglect for quite a while. They have not had water for well over a month, and I just watered them this morning. That is why the leaves are a little bit curled up on this snake plant. Okay, so this is the ZZ plant, and it is also another plant that would be good for the office. These can take practically almost darkness, but not quite. Okay, and the last plant that I'm going to show you that I have on my porch, now this is a cylindrical snake plant, or Sansevieria cylindrica. And this one I did let it get a little too dry, so the tips did dry out on this one. But this is also another plant that does well in the shade. Oh, and as long as I'm out here, I'll show you a few flowers that are blooming in case you are in an area where you're just recovering from snowstorms and you need a little bit of color. This is a Bugan Via, and the blooms, or actually I think these are called bracts, inside is the flower, but anyway, it is just beautiful, the color on this one. And this one is getting ready to really burst into bloom, but they are loving this heat. We have had heat in the 90s for the past week, and right now it's around noon and it is 91 degrees. Okay, now back to the shade-loving plants. All right, the next plant I'm going to show you is on my back patio, and this is Haworthia, and I believe it's also known as a zebra Haworthia. And these grow very compact, and they're great if you want to plant them in small spaces. But it's doing well here. It gets a little bit of sun, but mostly shade. Now keep it up on this shelf right here. Okay, I'm still on my back patio, and here is another plant that does well in the shade to partial shade, and this is a Aeonium lily pad, and it is just loving this spot. And another plant that I found does well in the shade to part shade is this kalanchoe, also known as a pen wiper plant. And the full name for this one, I believe, is kalanchoe marmot, something like that. Yeah, marmot. And it says full to part sun, but I have found that it really does prefer a little bit more shade in my area. And another plant on my patio, this is Kalanchoe blossfeldiana. I believe I incorrectly called it once Kalanchoe fettuccinco, but that is not it. It's Kalanchoe blossfeldiana, and these are the plants that usually can pick up in the grocery store. And you can see that this one is heavy with blooms, so it's flopping over. And I put two different blossfeldianas in here, this pink one and then this yellow one. Okay, I forgot to mention this plant. This is a Cacti repens, and you can see the real pretty variation in the colors here on the, I guess, the leaves. I absolutely love this plant, and it has done very well for me, and I have it planted in a pot where I have a Ficus benjamina growing. And also I have the Cacti repens planted here underneath this Norfolk pine. And lastly, we have Sedum morgianum, also known as Sedum burrito. It's a little bit different from the donkey tail one. The leaves are a little bit different. And by the way, the leaves on these come off very easily. But this one you can see I have hanging up here, so it's one of your trailing succulents, and it does like shade to partial shade. And mine has done very well for me. And now it will get pink flowers at the tips of the plants. Here you can see a little bit of a spent one, and there's another spent one there. They do come out in the spring, and here's one that's getting ready to bloom. The hummingbirds love these. Okay, so there you can see, there you go, what the blooms look like on the Sedum burrito, but they aren't quite fully open yet. But as I said, the hummingbirds love them. And this is also an easy plant to go, but a son of a gun to repot, because all of the leaves will fall off of that. So this is one of your shade to partial shade plants that you can grow on your patio or any place else where you have shade to part shade. Okay, I'm going to give you some succulent shade care tips, but while I am doing that, I'll give you a look at the rest of my garden, and it does need some maintenance. It has just been too hot to get out there and do some work. We have all last week temperatures up in the high 90s, and we have another week of low 90s. So you'll have to excuse the way things look. All right, first of all, shade care tips. Now, growing succulents in the shade is a little bit different. So the first most important thing is do not overwater. If the plants are in shade, it means that the soil will stay wet longer. But as with all succulents, never ever overwater. And this is also a good tip for succulents that are growing in the sun. Use well-draining soil. You do not want the soil to remain wet, because that will set up the plant for a rotting situation. Third, if you're growing them in shade, now watch for stretching of the plants, which is also called etiolation, and that means that your plant needs more light. So if you do notice that on your plant, give them some more light. And finally, if they are grown in the shade, you need to expect a slower growth on your plant, and that is normal. And finally, I want to mention that I did put out a video mid-week. It was called Beautiful Agaves and Euphorbias. This was a video that is in my urban landscape series. So if you did not see that video that I put out on, I think I put it out on Wednesday, go back and check that. I will put a link down below. And I also have a urban landscape series playlist if you're interested in that. And I do have another playlist of all of the botanical gardens that I have visited, and I will also put a link for that down below in the description box. Okay, I want to say thank you so much for watching my video. Let me know what type of succulents that you grow successfully in the shade. I would be interested to know, and I think some of our other viewers would be too. And once again, thank you for watching my video. Check back with me next time to see what I'm up to. Bye.